loves to receive an invitation? I do. I do. Howard and I, over the last couple of years, we have been so privileged to receive several wedding invitations from friends of our son and our daughter. I don't know about you, but I really do love to receive an invitation, whether it's to go to dinner with friends, whether it's to have a coffee with a friend, or a birthday party invitation, or yes, a wedding invitation. How does receiving an invitation make you feel? How do you feel? I believe it makes us feel special. It makes us feel loved. When we receive an invitation, I hope we all respond, either accepting that invitation or apologising and saying sorry that we're unable to make the occasion. Now, if we've said we are coming, I don't know about you, but I certainly wouldn't then not show up. And that's exactly what happened in our parable. Now, why does Jesus tell us this story? What's it all about? I believe Jesus shares this story to convey a profound spiritual lesson. The parable is referred to as the parable of the wedding feast. It explains to those who originally heard the story and to us here this morning the process and consequences of accepting or rejecting God's invitation. The invitation has been sent and it's been received. The invitation is to the kingdom of heaven. In the parable, the king prepares a great wedding feast for his son, and he sends invitations out to many guests. This reflects God's invitation to us, to humanity, to enter his kingdom and share in the joy of salvation. It's also a reminder to us that God offers his love and grace to everyone. But just like when we receive a physical invitation, it's up to us to accept the invitation, to accept this invitation to the kingdom of heaven. Now, in the parable, some rejected the invitation. The guests who were initially invited refused to go to the wedding feast. This symbolises the rejection of God's call and grace by some people. Their excuses and indifference represent the distractions and attachments that can prevent us accepting God's invitation. Now, we need to remember God's invitation is totally inclusive. All are invited. Everyone is invited. When the original guests in the parable declined the invitation, the king then sent out his servants to invite anyone they could find, both good and bad. This emphasises to us the inclusivity of God's call to his kingdom. It doesn't matter who we are or what we've done. Absolutely everyone is welcome to partake in God's grace. The next part of the invitation is about what should be worn. It's the dress code. In the last part, we encounter the story of the guest without a wedding garment who is cast out into the outer darkness. This is a reminder that it's not enough to just accept that invitation. we must also be prepared and clothed in righteousness. Our faith should be reflected in all of our actions. The conclusion of the parable is about consequences of rejecting God's invitation. So brace yourself, hold on to that seat, because this final part, it's not easy. The parable concludes with a warning about the dire consequences of rejecting God's invitation. The parable explains that those who reject him, they will face judgment and exclusion from his kingdom. And no one likes to be rejected. In our first reading that Alan read to us, Paul said to the Philippians, "So, my friends, whatever is true or noble or just or holy or kind or known to be good, if there is any goodness, if there is anything worthy of approval, focus on these things. Whatever you learned from me, picked up, heard, or noticed in me, these are the things you should do." So this coming week, we should all consider how Paul's words and the parable of the wedding feast apply to our own lives. We need to ask ourselves these questions. Am I accepting God's invitation to enter his kingdom? Or am I making excuses and being distracted by worldly concerns? Am I clothed in the righteousness of faith and good deeds? Or am I taking God's grace for granted? Ultimately, the parable of the wedding feast calls us to respond to God's invitation with a sincere and wholehearted acceptance, living a life of faith and love, and being prepared for that day of judgment when we all stand before God. This parable is a reminder of God's infinite love and also the importance of our response to his call. Amen. Notices. I feel as if I need to be jogging on the spot this morning to try and keep warm. But good news, did you notice? The doors are working. So a huge thank you to everyone. I know it's going to make such a difference to so many people, and especially our sparklers lot on a Monday morning as they fight to get through the door they used to with their buggies. And so just wonderful news. A big thank you to everyone. Please, a plea for some help. Light party, so it's happening on Tuesday, 31st of October. At the back, there's a big notice, actually. I need some help preparing some food, and it just needs to be dropped off here, please. So there's a list up there. If you could help, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Also, for the same event, for our light party, I need some empty and clean jam jars, please. Sort of average, they can be like this, or the ones that are slightly bigger. If you could bring those to church, that would be magnificent as well. And the other things are, save the dates, an invitation to the Teze service on Sunday the 29th at 4 p.m. for a cup of tea and slice of cake. That would be wonderful. And remember our annual memorial and Thanksgiving service when we spend time just reflecting back on those people that we have loved dearly but are no longer with us. And that's on November the 5th at 4 p.m, I think. No, 3 p.m. 3 p.m, actually. And that's all the notices this week.